All right, we're going to talk about sections, and since I have all these submarines in here, I thought we would use this section exercise as another submarine. So you can see we started with a simple one over here, and this one's very similar, but it just has a little bit more contour on it. So think along these lines. This exercise here, if you link more info, I think that's here, yeah. What's going on is read through this description here. You start with a center plane. Well, first set up your perspective and get a little bit of a top view so that you can see what's going on. It's a little harder when it's mostly side view. So you start with your center profile, which you determine, and then you can see he's laying out the rail here for, this looks like a boat hull upside down. And then he's boxing out. This is what I keep on saying. Everything, boxes are really easy in perspective. So each one of these is boxed out to the profile and up and then across from the cross section. And then in each one of those, he's actually mirroring these first. So he's setting up, finding the center point, and then find the mirror. How deep is that in perspective on every single one of those little ribs? And then you go in, once you've got those kind of boxes on both sides set up, you can see the center line there highlighted. Then you draw the profiles on one side, and then you mirror that, and you can see what's happening over here. He's picking a key point on this arc, and then mirroring that distance over to the other side so you can get that same key point over on the other side. And this one's got he's boxed out a section and then found where that cross section hits the diagonals, and then so you go over. So that's a different method. Here's Xbox method. Anyway, so there's a couple different ways to do it, but it takes a lot of time to set this up, and that is normal. So you want to find all these cross sections, and then I like to use some of these cross sections as contour lines in the object itself. So like you can see, here's a panel line. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but there's a panel line right there. It's following this contour, and that really helps you understand what the form is doing. And these are all drawings by Scott Robertson. This I don't know where this is somebody else's explanation, but Scott is a master in perspective. He's the one that the book I recommended. You can see all these kind of crazy 3D shapes that are not just primitive shapes. They're more automotive curves and stuff. So so that's the assignment. And what I did is I went ahead and made a little submarine. Oops, I gotta go over here. Keeping in tradition, I showed you guys last week the I made kind of an airplane. I think that's right here. This is a little too complex, but it's got a lot of body contours that change over time. This one's got a hump in the middle, and then it kind of transitions down into two tail fins, and then the wings coming off the sides. There's a lot going on here, so I just simplified this down. Let's get rid of that. This is where we started last week with, or last class, with the primitive shapes. And let's see, which sketch is that? I think it was the third one. Let's just give it a try. I'm going to try to change that tube. Wait, extrusion. Sorry, this is this one, which is this one, sketch 2. So I'm going to edit this sketch and change that diameter back down to 1 inch. Finish sketch, and now we've got more of an interesting cross section. What I was really talking about is I'm going to highlight that in blue. You can barely see it, but as we rove around, you can kind of see it makes, when you're at a perfect 3/4, it kind of makes an infinity or a number 8 symbol. And then as I roll it around, this side's got a nice big arch, and then here it comes almost to a point as it's looping back and coming back over. So you really got to pay attention to these. And as I mentioned on bicycle frames, you can see a lot of these intersections of different size tubing or cylinders. So that's what we worked on last class. And we got half a cylinder here, half a sphere, a cylinder, a truncated cone, This is a continuation. And this was just a extruded half circle shape. And then, like I said, the intersection of the two tubes. So let's close that up. We'll save those changes. And then I showed you this little form. This was kind of just basically like the fuselage of the airplane, and a very simple version, but I cut it up and changed the color on alternating segments so you could kind of see the contour lines, if you will. And then I also took all those, and you can see this is very similar to what he was doing, where we're cutting this up into sections. We've got the center. Oops, can I select all these? The center line is this, and you can see it's got this kind of interesting thing happening here because it's transitioning from those two jet exhausts that come out. But if right down through the middle, that's the cross section. So let's go back here. Boop. And you can see it was just highlighted. Whoops. No, I can't highlight it. You can see I'm looking at this section line right through there. And so in the center, which you can't really tell from the sides, it cuts off a lot shorter than it does on the full exterior profile. So there's the centerline profile, and then there's the exterior profile. So then I thought, well, let's take this instead of making this into some sort of airplane or something rather. I just changed the form into a little submarine kind of. This reminds me a little bit of the Incredibles, where he's got that flying ship that goes underwater on the first one, if you've seen it. But so this would be the little sphere in front where the drivers sit, and spheres are good structure, perfect structure to withstand all the same pressure all the way around. That's why you always see these subs with these. And then they usually have some sort of little adjustable rotor thing. So this doesn't have the fan blades in there, but these would turn and lift the ship up or whatever, and maybe turn forward, and ship could go that way. But again, look at the contour lines, and I think I didn't do the. Let's turn these off one by one. So there's the center sphere, and you can kind of see the negative space that the sphere used up. And then, okay, so this is one. I'll just turn those off. All right, so here I took a section out of here, so I just filleted this up. So somehow my numbers got all mixed up, but let's turn that one back on. Boop. I don't remember which one it was. Here, let's do this. Oh, I'm in render mode. Oh, that's right. Let me. What I was going to talk about right now is just the materiality of this. So you can see the in between the darker stripes look like there's some sort of metallic. You can see reflections going through there, and then the stripes look like they're more like a matte, opaque paint, and so they're not reflecting as much. But if you kind of watch very carefully, you'll see like this hot spot will roll down, and then it kind of blends into this one, and then it peels up. So this is something that just takes, if you're trying to render this kind of stuff, looking at a lot of automotive shapes, and look at the corners and the curves and the crease lines and stuff, and just kind of watch it as you walk around, and watch those reflections move, and then you can see how they behave and what they would be doing. So this is really important. This one kind of coming up, and this little dark spot right in there, that tells me that this thing drops down and then comes back out. So there's a lot of subconscious understanding of shapes that you get when you're looking at reflections. And then also look at the contour of the sphere and how it meets the body. Like, so from the side, this is something I might not be able to guess exactly, but if I mapped it all out properly, I probably could get a little bit closer. And the way it comes up a little further, because this shape is coming higher up on the ball. So this is something you got to kind of draw from all the different vantage points. And the reason I was in here, let me go to settings. I'm going to change the scene so you can see the what the different environments do. I'm not even sure what this one is. I think this is this one's got like skylights up above it. So take a look. It's kind of just black and white and grayish, and then I'm going to throw us into a dry lake bed here. And now you can see the top is very blue because I'm going to roll it up here. We're looking up at the sky, and notice the sky is lighter at the horizon. And as we roll up, it gets darker and darker and darker and darker. And a lot of times it, where's the sun spot? I've lost it. The highlight of the sun is actually in the dark areas. So you can see right there is the highlight. So if I roll this around, a lot of times when I'm rendering these things, I try to get the best angle so I can actually get some highlights. So see right there, that highlights are coming across there. That's way more telling than in those zones where there's no highlights. So if I roll it down, I'm getting a big hot spot over here. So I want to get a little bit of both and let that cross over those stripes. And then you'll see this is just a preview. When I actually go to render this, and I'll render this up in the background, it will look very different. It's going to really take into account all the ray tracing and things. And like, for example, right there, you see a shadow from this, I think it's the sphere is casting a shadow onto the chrome, or it's a reflection, I'm not sure which. And then down here, I'm actually seeing a little bit of light through the cowling. It looks kind of like an eyeball. And here I'm getting a little bit of light coming through the dome. And the dome I just rendered as a solid sphere. It should really have some thickness and it will look a lot better. So I'm going to stop this. I'll post a rendering of this after the fact. I'll clean it up a little bit. But you can kind of see all these highlights in the chrome really help identify the shape. But more so, these contour lines really help you figure out what's going on. So let's go back. I think that's actually mostly all I want to talk about. Let's throw in just one more environment just because we're here. So I'm going to stop this render and set up. And let's try the, we'll do the plaza. This one's got a lot of noise around the edges. Now it's got some brick pattern, and I'm going to change that just because the scale of it looks so wrong. All right, so now, like you can see in this, in the bubble, the reflection of those buildings kind of wrapping around, and you'll see like a tight reflection right on these creases where all that stuff gets really squished and busy. And so you see a lot of stripes and lines and stuff, and then you see that beginning of the horizon, right in there. So that's that lighter color around the horizon that goes up to the darker color into the dark blues, and then because this wraps back, we're catching that sun highlight. And let's get a good angle here. So like imagine this submarine just got transported to a museum and it's parked out front. And here I'm actually going to leave it alone and rotate the lighting around. Because a lot of times I'll do this, I'll get a good view, and then I'll choose the lighting as a secondary operation. So here it's too blown out. And then there I see the highlights kind of rolling around, and maybe let's try that. So I'll close this and do an in-canvas render. And so here all of a sudden you'll start to see the shadows on the ground. Again, I got to fix that sphere to make it actually have a thickness, and I probably should really have a fuselage inside there that shows some seats and controls and stuff, because that's where all the interest is. So I'm going to stop here, but this is basically the idea. I want you to come up with some sort of interesting shape. It doesn't have to be this contoured. As I mentioned before, it can be like the little green toy submarine I did here. This is, you can almost see where you could take the first submarine that we did with just the primitives and kind of start bending them out and contouring them a little bit more to get a little bit more of an interesting shape. That's it. All right, thanks for watching.